Elspeth here from Vegan News Daily, and today I'm going to show you how to make a French apple lemon tart. It turns out absolutely beautiful, and I'm going to show you how quick and easy it is. So let's get going. So first up, I'm going to make the crust. So in my food processor with the S blade inserted, I'm going to add some almonds, about 1.5 cups of almonds, and I'm also going to add rolled oats. So this is just regular gluten-free rolled oats that you might make porridge with. So I'll add that. And to sweeten this, I use dates. So I use the Medjool dates. These are the big, luscious, juicy dates. And I just take the pits out. And I have a real good strategy in place for making sure that I take out the pits. So I have a little bowl on the side and I count how many pits I have and how many dates I have in the bowl. So I just go ahead and remove all the pits, pop them in the little bowl. Whoops, it didn't quite mix. And then I'm going to add these to the processor. And I'm just going to process this for a couple of minutes until it comes together. So let's get started. And I could stop it every now and again just to make sure that all the bits along the edge are getting incorporated. So it's coming together nicely. It's like a grainy mixture. And I'll let it process for a few minutes more. So this is the texture that it is right now. It's just very, very grainy. So I'm going to now add some date syrup. And I also wanted to tell you that if you are not an almond lover, or you just simply can't eat almonds, you could also make this just using some other kind of nut. So you could use pecans or walnuts or any kind of nut that agrees with you. And you could also use chestnuts. Chestnuts are much lower in fat than any other nut. So these chestnuts are, available in jars. They are a very bland flavor. They're not going to, add too much pop to this recipe at all, but it'll be a nice texture and give you the exact crust that you want. So now I'm going to let this date paste incorporate. And you can see it starting to come together. The machine's working a little harder, so I'm just going to start pulsing here. Looks like it might be about right. So I'm going to now take this crust, and I'm going to use two different size pans. I have a 9-inch and I have a little mini pan here. I think this recipe is sort of best suited for a 10-inch pan. So if you just want to make one pan, use a 10-inch pan. I'm going to just put the rest in the small one. I might have overdone it a little bit on the date paste. It looks a little browner than normal, but this is a recipe that does not have to be followed to the T, so make it how you like. And then with clean hands, so I just want to show you as well, this is a tart pan, so the bottom will come out. So we'll make it really easy to serve once it's all done. Okay. So with clean hands, you're just going to work the crust into the side of the pan. And this tart is not going to be baked at all. There's no baking involved here. So it just needs to come together on its own and hold together. So it's quite sticky. And again, I think I put a little too much date syrup in this time, but that's okay. So you just press it into the bottom of the pan and just keep working your way around. And I might pinch a little more from the smaller tart pan if need be. But you don't need a very thick crust. It's just you just want to make sure it comes along the bottom and up the sides of the pan. So working all the way around. I'm going to pinch a little more from here, and then we'll just have a very thin crust on the smaller tart pan. Just keep working it in. And that's it. That's pretty good. That's the tart crust already in the pan. And I'll do the same with the small pan. Just work the dough into the sides and the bottom of the tart. So that's it for the crust. Now we'll move on to the filling. So now I'm going to get going on the filling for this tart. And I want to tell you a little bit about how this tart came about. I was determined to make a French lemon tart, and I got my lemon curd mixture all together with my lemons, and I was mixing it all together, and then it came the part where I needed to put sugar in it. And I don't cook with any sugar at all. I prefer to use date syrup. So I added the date syrup to the lemon curd, and it turned into a lovely brown, gooey deliciousness, but it wasn't anywhere like the lemon curd that I had imagined. So I ended up deciding that that was the end of my lemon curd, but I thought, well, what else can I do with this? So I ended up coming up with this French apple tart by doing exactly that, and I'll tell you a little more about it in a moment. But what I have here is I have date syrup in a pan, and I'm just going to turn the heat on, and to this date syrup I'm going to add some cornstarch. So I've got 3 teaspoons of cornstarch going in here. And I'm just going to whisk together the cornstarch and the date syrup until it gets well combined so I don't have any lumps and bumps. So I'll whisk that together. So when I was making the lemon curd and it was all brown, I decided to add some turmeric to the mix to think that it would turn it yellow, but it didn't quite turn it yellow because the date syrup is too dark. But I kept the turmeric in the recipe because it makes the apples look very bright, and I thought it would be a lovely color enhancer and also a great way to just get turmeric in a recipe, because turmeric, as we know, is super anti-inflammatory, and I never miss an opportunity to add turmeric. So this is what turmeric actually looks like. This is the root of the turmeric. This is how it comes in its root form. So this would just be joined to the plant here, and you can just buy it powdered, as most of us do. And to make turmeric more bioavailable to our bodies, you should always add black pepper to the recipe. I haven't added it to this recipe, but you can add a little black pepper to the crust if you like. I know some people have told me they have done that. And then next up, I'm going to add some almond milk. So about ½ a cup of almond milk. And there is going to be a recipe for the almond milk on our YouTube channel, so don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you'll be able to see how quick and easy it is to make almond milk. So I'm just going to go ahead and whisk this all together for about 5 minutes until it turns into a nice thick sort of caramel here. So all I'm going to be doing is whisking this together, and then we'll get busy on cutting the apples. So I also need to add in the lemons and the lemon zest. I use a microplane to just zest a lemon. So it really is a wonderful ingredient in any recipe that you're using lemon in, if you can get some of the lemon zest. So I'll just pop that lemon zest directly in, and then I'm going to cut this lemon in half. And you always want to zest the lemon before you cut it in half. It's just so much easier. And I'm going to use about 3 tablespoons or so of lemon juice. And you can approximate, I think this is a fairly juicy lemon, but I am going to use another half of the lemon here. And I hope you all got yourselves one of these citrus squeezers, because they come in handy for so many recipes. Alright, so I'm just going to stir that in, and I don't know if you can see that, but it's starting to caramelize nicely. It's thickening up, and it's a lovely thick syrup. So there you go. And now we'll get busy on the apples. So our lovely lemon curd has thickened up nicely, and what I'm going to do is add it to a saute pan. So I'll simply just pour this all in, nice and thick and creamy, and then we're going to cut up the apples and put the apples inside this lovely mixture to coat them. Okay, that's good. Right, so for the apples, you can choose your favorite apples. You can use red, you can use green, you can use a little bit of both. So I like to use Gala apples and Granny Smith apples. And I'm going to use a corer to get the core out of the center of these apples. And you can just pop the core into your compost. And then just with a nice sharp chef's knife, just cut the apples in half. So you end up with this little shape like that. And then just using your bare claw grip, just slice through the apples and slice them into nice thin slices. Actually, whoops, we lost an apple there, no problem. I just slice thin slices of the apple. I want it thin enough that I'll be able to curve it around in the tart, and I also want it thick enough that it won't just fall apart and become mush. So I'm just going to add the apples to the pan. And then I'm going to go for a green one here. So here's a nice green one. Same thing again. Just going to take out the core. Cut the apple in half. And then just simply cut the slices of apple. And I could turn on the heat here. Whoops. Turn on the heat just so that the apples are going to cook for about 4 to 5 minutes inside the lovely caramel mixture right there. And then I will place a lid on top. So I'm just going to coat the apples inside this lovely lemony turmeric date syrup mixture. And then I'll put the lid on, and the heat from the pan is going to soften the apples a little bit more. So it's not a very long cooking process at all. So you do the same, you continue on with about 4 or 5 apples. And as you can see in the pan, I'm just coating it with the caramel mixture. And I let that cook for a little while. And then I'll simply put the lid on the pan, turn off the heat, and let the apples soften further with the heat from the pan. And then I'll move on to making the apple tart. So I did go ahead and cook some apples in advance. So these ones are already cooked and ready to be turned into a beautiful French apple tart. So now it's time to assemble our tarts, and I'm going to invite Caileigh on to make a tart with us and tell us some fun facts and information about the tart of France.
So what should we do? Get started.
Yeah, so I thought you could do this small tart and I'll do a large one. So I have the apples already baked, and what we do is you just take a slice of apple and you put it around the outside edge of the tart, and you take your next slice and just overlap with the previous slice.
Okay.
And you continue on in a spiral pattern all the way around the edge and then all the way into the center. So we'll keep going on.
Sounds good. And my mom is such a speedy vegan. I'm like, I bet she'll finish faster than I will with this little tart.
It's not a race.
It's not a race. It's not a race. This looks lovely. So I do have some fun stories to share with you guys about the origins of a French apple tart. So this is just a regular French apple tart, but there is another French apple tart called a tarte tatin, which has a really fun story, and it does feature apples. So I thought I would share that story with you guys. But first, I want to share that apples have a lot of wonderful health benefits. So they contain malic acid and tartaric acid, which helps to detox impurities from the liver and gallbladder. So wonderful for your health. And you know that old phrase, an apple a day keeps the doctor away, really is true. But you can have apples in tarts if you want, or you can eat the apple whole. You could have apple cider. This is the perfect time of year, fall, to really enjoy apples. Go apple picking. If possible, really do try to get organic apples because they are very heavily sprayed. And the taste is just so much better with organic apples. So I highly recommend you look for an orchard where they do organic growing. So before further ado, I will tell you the story about the tarte tatin. So in the 1800s in France, in the Loire Valley, there were two sisters, and they ran a hotel called the Hotel Tatin, and that was their last name. And the older sister, Stephanie, worked in the kitchen, and the younger sister was the concierge at the desk, managing the hotel. So the older sister was known for all of her wonderful cooking, but she was also known for kind of always being a bit of a mess and in a hurry. So one day for the lunch menu, she was making her classic tarte aux pommes, which pommes is the French word for apples. Again, I'm sorry about my pronunciation, but she realized that she had just put the sugar and apples in the pan without putting the crust in first. And so in a hurry, she just threw the crust on top, and then when she went to serve the apples, when she went to serve the tart, she actually served it hot and just flipped the pan over. So it was really an upside down tart, and it became such a hit. So this little hotel, Hotel Tatam, became known for this tart. So the famous restaurant called Maxim's in Paris heard word of this tart, and they sent one of their chefs disguised as a gardener to steal the recipe from the Tatin sisters. So this tart has been, not this tart, but the tarte Tatin has been on the menu at Maxim's ever since, which is a really fun story. And I just finished my beautiful little tart. Look at that.
That looks fabulous. So I'm continuing around here. I did take the lid off of the apples that we cooked today, just to cool down a little bit because they're a little bit too hot to use right now. So keep that in mind in your process for making the tart, that you do want to cool the apples before you add them. So I'm going to be brave here. All right, so maybe not the prettiest apple tart I've ever made, but pretty enough. That's it.
It's pretty good.
That's beautiful. Delicious. How lovely. Yes, so definitely subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss out on any of the recipes. Vegan News Daily, hit the subscribe button below, and we would love to show you more recipes. So as always,
Bon appetit!